Welcome to Lecture 1 for Philosophy of the Natural Sciences. This is going to be a very short video introduction to our course in terms of how to access content that's on Moodle, what's on Moodle, how to access the iTunes U content. So what you see here is what more or less a student sees as of this moment on Moodle. So I'm going to assume that you know how to log into Moodle. So up here at the top, you'll see announcements. I haven't posted anything yet, but I will once I make this lecture available. When I need to communicate with the class, I'll do so either through that mass email that I send to everybody enrolled in the course, or I'll do it through announcements. And when I do send an announcement out, it goes to everyone's UNO email account, so make sure that you're using your UNO email. The open forum is here in case you run into any issues accessing content, playback, or if there are any sort of general issues that you'd like to bring up for discussion, you can post something to the open forum. In this section, in important course documents, you'll of course find the syllabus, the game plan, and let me just click on the syllabus and draw your attention to a couple of things. I'm not going to read it because, well, you can do that yourself. But there is, or there are two required texts for the course. The Klemke, Hollinger, Rudge, and Klein an anthology, introductory readings in the philosophy of science. You're not going to need it until week 4, but you are going to need it. At the end of the semester, we'll be reading Kuhn's, or most of Kuhn's, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. I think they've ordered the 50th edition version, which is probably a little longer than the typical one. It doesn't really matter what edition you get. I've been using the 3rd edition, which is fine. But you're going to need that book as well. And then I'm making some readings available online, as you'll see. So basically, this is a course in the philosophy of science. And basically what we're doing, as this is an upper-level course in philosophy of science, is exploring a number of fundamental questions that relate to the nature of science. So how do you distinguish genuine science from pseudoscience? What is the scientific method? What's the ontological status of theoretical entities? You'll understand what that means here. What's the nature of scientific explanations, scientific laws, theories? How should we choose one theory over another? And then the Kuhn stuff, what's a scientific revolution? How do they contribute to the growth of knowledge, of scientific knowledge? What does Kuhn mean when he talks about paradigms and so on? So you can read through the syllabus. There are going to be a variety of things that you're going to be able to do by the end of the semester, so take a look at that. It's including not just knowledge stuff, things you're going to know, but also things you're going to be able to do. And among the things you're going to have to do for me is first, when we're out of this and we'll take a look at the game plan, read through UNO's academic dishonesty policy, complete my acknowledgement statement, or that I've set up for each of you to do. It's actually worth 1% of your grade. But basically you're acknowledging that you understand when the exams are, when the essay needs to be submitted, and that you'll abide by UNO's academic honesty policy in submitting assignments. But there are 4 other areas here. The 1-minute arguments. Essentially, there are 24 lectures over the course of the semester, and there's a 1-minute argument question that corresponds to each of the lectures. And the idea basically is that you need to make a claim in relation to whatever my question is. You need to give some reasons in support of the claim, and it should take me about a minute to read it. So I'm not asking you to write paragraphs and paragraphs in response to these 1-minute argument questions, but the 1-minute arguments are a way for you to stay engaged with the material that we're covering that week, as well as to interact with me and the other students in the class. So I'll underscore this, but play nice. There are 2 take-home essay exams. I'm not making them available here day 1. I'll make them available probably a week or maybe 2 weeks before the due date, as you'll see on Moodle here. And then the final thing you'll have to do is an essay, which is due at the end of the semester, and it's there is a corrected version. I need to fix those points. But each exam is worth 30% of your grade for a total of 60%. The essay is worth 20% of your grade. And those are the things that you're going to have to do. So you see a written description of each of these items here. And there are guidelines that will be on Moodle for not just completing the exams, but also for completing the essay. And then the rest of the syllabus is just the policies that we need for the course. One thing I'll emphasize, which I just did, was language here. Feel free to say anything to me or to your peers in the 1-minute arguments, or via email, but just play nice. I won't tolerate any personal attacks or abusive behavior. And finally, this warning, I've got a version of this up on all my syllabi for that matter. But the idea is that, doing philosophy requires a willingness to think critically. And critical thinking doesn't consist simply in making claims. Anybody can make any claim they want at any time. Rather, critical thinking, doing philosophy, requires not just making claims, but giving reasons in support of your claims and entertaining criticisms from people who don't share your assumptions. And the bottom line is that doing philosophy can be hazardous to your cherished beliefs. Now, the issues, the fundamental questions we'll be exploring in this course aren't going to be probably so sensitive to you that it's going to really make your hair stand up. It's not we're not going to be dealing with abortion and some other, highly charged, emotionally charged topics. Nevertheless, we're going to be dealing with all these topics critically, which means that we'll be identifying arguments in the text, we'll be evaluating the arguments, and in the end, doing philosophy, as you'll discover in the first real lecture, the next one, is doing philosophy is largely a matter of determining what's most reasonable to believe about issues for which good reasons can be given for a variety of different positions. That doesn't mean anything goes, but still, we'll be dealing with these issues critically. So this is the syllabus, so make sure that you read through this and you understand what's being expected of you. Let me get out of that and go back to our class. And then there's the game plan. So the game plan's in that section on important course documents. The game plan tells you what needs to be done when. So I've organized the game plan according to weeks. And since this is a very short week, the only thing we're doing this week is, going over the syllabus, showing you Moodle, how to access the content. And this is lecture 1. So I've already posted a 1-minute argument. It turns out a few people have already posted their reply. But most weeks it's going to be like this. So this is going to be week 2. I tell you what you need to read. Now, it's not going to be life-threatening if you don't have the textbook right now, so that you don't read the background stuff. But basically, I can't presuppose that any of you have ever had a philosophy class, much less a class in logic. So the first real lecture is to introduce you to what philosophy is, and specifically what philosophy of science is. And along the way, you'll discover, at least according to me, what's required to do philosophy. And you'll discover, quite a few things about fundamental questions and whatnot. So that's the purpose of lecture 2. Then we turn our attention to some groundwork stuff. Again, since I can't presuppose that you've had any philosophy or any logic, and it turns out that we use a fair amount of logic when we do philosophy of science, I need to give you sort of a crash course in logic. So I'm presenting to you through Moodle 3 chapters from my logic book in the informal logic section. We're going through it quickly. I'm not holding you responsible for all that material in the way that I would my logic students, but we're going to do essentially in 3 days what it takes me about a month to do in my logic class. So I decided not to cut the chapters up and to give you really abridged versions of them, so you'll have the chapters in their entirety. So basically 2 lectures are devoted to material you find in chapter 2, and then I've got 1 lecture devoted to 2 chapters, chapter 3 and 4. 3 is the chapter devoted to recognizing arguments and writing them in standard form. 4 is the chapter devoted to evaluating arguments. And since we're going to be recognizing arguments and sometimes expressing them symbolically, evaluating arguments all semester long, I need here at the beginning to equip you with the tools that will enable you to do the kind of philosophy we're going to be doing this semester. Then we turn our attention to the scientific method. I've got a link on Moodle for that material. It's really, really, really introductory, but you'll see some applications of the logic stuff. And then we turn our attention to the real sort of fundamental questions, like how to distinguish genuine science from pseudoscience, and so on. So basically, what the game plan tells you is, per each week, what needs to be read, what lecture needs to be completed, and what 1-minute argument needs to be done. So pay attention to the game plan. The game plan also tells you specifically when exam 1 must be submitted via Moodle, and exam 2 must be submitted via Moodle, as well as the essay. So pay attention to the game plan. Let me get out of this. One of the things that I want you to do is to read through UNO's academic dishonesty policy, and then to complete this acknowledgement statement telling me that you understand what the policy is, you know when the exams are, when the essay is due, and that you'll abide by the dishonesty policy. Then what you see here, this is actually a placeholder for this lecture, so I'm not going to click on it. But the lecture is here. The readings for weeks 2 and 3 are here, and then the reading for the first half of week 4 is here. But by then you're going to need the book, so make sure you get the book. You'll also find here on Moodle the section devoted to iTunes U. So here's the idea, basically. Everyone in the world has access to our lectures, that is all of the online courses that we offer as a department. And this, so far, we're the only department that actually has an online bachelor's degree at UNO. And the way that we're branding our courses is we're delivering all the lectures and the lecture notes and all that material through iTunes U. But everyone in the world has access to that stuff. But only students enrolled at UNO have access to Moodle, which means only folks enrolled at UNO have access to the 1-minute arguments, have access to the exams, have access to the guidelines and how to submit the essay. So basically everything you'll do for a grade you'll do through Moodle, but all of the content, the lectures and whatnot, you'll access through iTunes U. Now in order to do that, you're going to need either the iTunes application installed on your computer or the iTunes U app installed on one of your mobile devices, that is your iPhone, your iPad, or your iPod. And it turns out about 250,000 people who've subscribed to our classes, only about 8% of people are actually using the computer to access lectures. And there are some reasons for that. In fact, I'll draw your attention to that when you see how I've broken the material up for iTunes U. But basically, there's a direct link here, if you're on your computer, to essentially let the page load. This is a web page that is more or less a representation of our course on iTunes U. This isn't the actual course. In order to subscribe to it, you'll need to click on View in iTunes so that you can subscribe to it. But you get, a version of the description. You get a list of the materials that have been uploaded as of today. But let's click in View in iTunes. And if you have iTunes installed, it will load. And all you have to do is click Subscribe. A little window pops up, says that there may be materials that may need to be purchased. Well, it turns out that I actually have some links to material at the iTunes Store and at Amazon, which you may want to purchase, like the textbook. And I'm going to have us watch an episode or two of Cosmos, so there'll be links there, but you're not going to be forced to purchase anything. All iTunes U content is always free, except for the stuff you got to purchase, right? But you're not going to have to purchase anything. So click on OK, and then something happens in the background that's really, really fast. And basically, I've just subscribed to my own course here. But in order to access it, you need to click on Library and click on iTunes U. And you'll notice that I've got this Philosophy of Natural Science. If I put the arrow down, the only thing that it's downloaded was the syllabus. In order to access all of the rest of the material, and this is one of the advantages of using the iTunes application on your computer, you can click on this icon here in order to download everything. But usually in order to get it to recognize it, there's a whole bunch of material there. First you click on Courses, click on the course that you want, in this case, Philosophy of Natural Science, click on the list, and what you see here is a list of all the material. Now, I haven't actually subscribed to it, so I'm surprised you're seeing a little blue, but then again, I've created all the material on this computer, so it's here in any event. In order to download everything, you click on that iCloud button, and the window pops up and it asks you, do you want to download all the material? Click yes, and this is what you'll see. Everything's shaded out, and as the material downloads or finishes downloading, you'll get the indication here in the little circle, and then it'll be blue when it's available. So if you want to access the material via iTunes, that is the application on your computer, you can, but you can also access it via your mobile devices. And there's actually advantages to doing that, because here you just essentially get a list of all the material, right? But when you're using, let me get out of this, when you're using a mobile device and the iTunes U app, things are a little different. So I'm going to go into my space as a creator of these iTunes U courses here at iTunes U. So you get a representation of the 4 courses that I've created, and this one, that is the course Philosophy of Natural Sciences, I'm offering for the first time, so I don't have all of the materials up and everything up here at the beginning of the semester. But if we click on the course, which we'll do here, what you see more or less corresponds to how you view the material that's available via the iTunes U app. So you've got the overview, the instructor, the outline of the material, right? But most of the work that's being done here is being done through what are called posts. So the posts organize all of the material according to the outline, right? The outline corresponds to, the order of the material that we're covering on the game plan. So if you click on, say, the first post, you'll have a little text description. It's going to look a little different, right? Because I can edit this. But you'll also have a link to the syllabus, a link to the game plan, a link to the textbook, the Kuhn Structure of Scientific Revolutions, a link to our online degree program, and eventually you're also going to see a link to Lecture 1. A typical post, however, will be, say, let's scroll down a bit. Why not? We'll do, say, Conditions and Conceptual Analysis, this post here. Click on it. And you'll notice there's a text description here telling you what you need to do. There'll be a link, in this case, to both the video lecture, the audio version of the lecture, and then a PDF of the slides found in the lecture. Now, I'm using video lectures in this course because this course is being created from the last time I did the face-to-face version of this course, and I had the lectures video recorded. And I interact a lot, not just with students, right, but I interact a lot with the computer when I'm lecturing, and more importantly, the document camera. So for those lectures where I'm interacting a lot with the computer, the document camera, I'm making a video version of that lecture available. But if bandwidth is an issue for you and you just want to listen to the audio, then I'm going to be making an audio version of the lecture available. Now, I can't edit the video as easily as I can the audio. That is the 2 different lectures. But I can't edit the audio. So in the audio, I delete, the ums and pauses and stuff. So it tends to be shorter than the video lecture. But access the lecture that you want to access. It doesn't matter. And then there'll always be a lecture note version available. So since, as I said, I'm creating this course for the first, or I'm offering this course for the first time, and not everything's created, I recommend that you keep your notifications on if you're using the iTunes U app, so that as I upload new audio versions of the lectures, you can see that pretty much the entire course has been structured, but I don't have all of the content up. I have all the video lectures for those lectures where there's a video, but I don't have all the audio. So I've got the audio up for the first couple of weeks. That is all the materials up for the first couple weeks of lectures. And I'm about to finish, it turns out, the audio for Lecture 5, and then I'll go on 6 and 7 and so on. So it doesn't matter whether you use the iTunes application on your computer to access content or the iTunes U app to subscribe to the course and to access content. How you do so is going to be up to you. So let's go back to Moodle. So if you need a longer tutorial on how to access the material via your computer or via your iPad or your iPhone, I've created some video tutorials, and there's a link here to those. All right, so it's going to be through Moodle that you'll access the 1-minute arguments. So I'm not going to make them all available here at the beginning. I may work a bit ahead to give you, those of you that want to work at a faster pace, the ability to do so, but I'm not going to make the entire course available this particular semester. So basically, again, your grade's going to be determined by your 1-minute argument posts, which in the end is 19% of your grade. 2 take-home multi-part essay exams, each of which is going to be worth 30%. So the exams are worth 60% of your grade. And then there'll be an essay. So when I make the exams available, I'll post an announcement, and you'll see a link to the exam. I've got the guidelines for the essay already here. I've got the link for submitting the essay, which you're not going to do until the end of the semester. But again, I'm not going to, I should tell you, I'm not asking for just any old essay. I'm asking for a very specific essay organized and written in a specific way. And I'll want it named and submitted in accordance with the guidelines. So this is the material that you'll see on Moodle. So you'll be using a combination of Moodle and iTunes U. You'll need to get on Moodle, weekly to answer the 1-minute argument questions. And for most weeks, there's 2 lectures that need to be completed. All right, that takes care of everything that I think I need to say here at this point. So make sure that you've read through the syllabus, the game plan, the University of New Orleans academic dishonesty policy, complete the acknowledgement statement. You're listening to lecture 1 now. Make sure you subscribe to the course, and if you want to do it both online, or that is both via iTunes and the iTunes U app, knock yourself out. I know a lot of people tend to listen to lectures like when they're in the car and whatnot. Now you can't see what is on the slide or what's going on in the document camera that way, but manage your time the way that you need to manage your time in order to complete the content. So order the text or get the text, and if you have any questions, just send me an email.